The Outlanders Journey. Tier 1, Level 1. Chapter 10. Bach, you prepare for bed. You haven't slept indoors in so long. The three of you are offered a spacious corner, cordoned off to provide some privacy. The soft grass bedding beneath you is surprisingly comfortable. You can hear the pouring rain above you, the clap of thunder every few seconds. At least for this night, you're full and warm and safe. Laurel has expressed that the three of you should leave as soon as you're all well rested, before the orcs inevitably discover Mayali's disguise. You can't help but wish you could stay longer. As you snuggle into your bedroll, you hear Ernog whispering amongst a smaller group of orcs, which include Dura and Lasha. They peer at you every once in a while before leaning in and continuing their discussion. Laurel is fast asleep, breathing heavily, turned away from you. You pretend to be asleep, but you observe with narrowed eyes. Eventually, all the torches are blown out, and everyone settles in. The winds howl loudly through the tunnel leading out. The curtains in the back flutter ominously. You close your eyes, forcing yourself to relax to no avail. You haven't had a good night's sleep since your escape. You keep dreaming about that moment, your body an empty vessel, nothing but raw, destructive energy. "Only I know you for what you are," you hear Mr. Seno say. You open your eyes, staring directly at him. Half of his face is rotted away, maggots crawling out of his eye socket. "I know you. I know who you are. I will find where you are. You will never truly escape." His skeletal hands reach out, the muscles and skin regrowing into Papa's strong hands. You look into his visage again, and you stare at Laurel's eyes. He whispers, "Monster." You shoot up out of your bedroll, breathing heavily, drenched in sweat. Next to you, Laurel is still sleeping, his chest rising and falling peacefully. Mayali is bundled in a little ball, the tiny curve of a smile on her face. In the distance, you notice someone sitting by the mouth of the cave, staring up the tunnel. It's Ernog, back perfectly straight, legs crossed, his weapon on his lap. There's a quiet dignity to his posture. You have no desire to go back to sleep at this point. You fumble through your backpack, and you find your magical goggles. You slip out of your bedroll and approach him. He glances over at you, nodding once before returning his gaze to the tunnel. You tiptoe over to him, careful not to step on anyone. You hear Mayali stir and mumble your name because she just lost her source of warmth. You reach Ernog and lean over, offering him the goggles. "This lets you see far in the dark." "Thank you," says Ernog. He accepts it, examining it all over. "Is this magical?" You nod. He pauses. He hands it back to you. "It's all right. I can manage without it." "Oh, okay." "Thank you anyway," he says, still staring at the goggles. "How did you get this?" You sit next to him. We found it. Someone dropped it." "I see." "You don't want to use magic things?" Ernog sighs. "I should overcome this fear. At this point, we make use of what we can. I know I am being irrational." You strap the goggles over your head, and peering through the glasses, you spot with perfect clarity the boulder blocking the entrance to the tunnel. A soft breeze comes in, cooling your face with tiny sprinkles of moisture. You turn around and find Laurel and Mayali in the corner. Across the cave, Mock is snuggling with Rock, whose legs keep twitching. Dura is curled up under a thin blanket. Lasha is snoring gently. You lift the goggles over your eyes. New Everlon has done so many bad things, but it does make amazing technology. Ernog glances at you. "Your name is Bach, am I correct?" You nod. "You know how to use magic, correct?" "A little bit." "And your siblings?" You hesitate. "A little bit." "Bayron, is that your brother's name?" You nod again. "I got the sense that he is a proficient magic user." You're surprised that Ernog figured this out. Did they see him casting spells earlier? you say, shrugging. Maybe he knows a little more than me. He narrows his eyes at you. It's all right. You don't have to be so hesitant. I ask out of curiosity, not judgment. I know that furbolgs are naturally capable of magic. Oh, do you know any magic? Or do you want to learn? Arnog does not speak for a long moment. He stares ahead. On his own time, he answers. I've been taught since a young age that magic is akin to witchcraft. Such things are unwieldy and always lead to destruction. For us, magic is a forbidden form. Oh. You wonder how he will react if he ever sees your or Maya Lee's wild magic. In truth, if you could give up these powers, you would without hesitation. Living without magic abilities is barely a sacrifice. Do you hate the elves because they use magic? Arnog scratches his neck. It is true that the elves' abilities terrified many of us. They could harness powers beyond anything we've known. Even Elder Lashaw has never witnessed anything so destructive. I saw a great ball of fire soar towards us. Many of us were burned alive. He raises his left arm, rolling up his sleeves and revealing a sickly purple scar running from his wrists up to his elbow. It has a web-like pattern, bulging out. But the true horror was not magical in nature. The screams of agony that haunt me did not occur during battle. They sent a man and woman who spoke Sylvan, professing peace as representatives of a religious order. When they offered us food and supplies, my father foolishly chose to trust them, and within days, half of us died of a horrible disease, far worse than any destructive magic or any battle. They killed us in the quiet of the night. My father perished with a fever so high he was tearing apart his own skin. In his delirium, he kept screaming that he needed to let out the fire in his chest. I'm so sorry, you say. You reach out and touch his shoulder. Do not apologize for them, he says. They have taken from you as well. He turns, facing you directly. Bach, I have a favor to ask you. You nod. We were planning to ask you in the morning after you got enough rest, so you do not need to answer my request now. I'm sure you will need to discuss with your family as well. What is it? You are trying to return home to the forest, correct? You nod. The northern region? Yes. We have been sending scouts to look for alternative places for us to live, at least through the winter. A couple of days ago, they returned with only half their numbers. The elves have taken this part of the land. To the south are the goblins and hobgoblins. To the west is an unknown wasteland. To the north is an encroaching winter. As I feared, there is nowhere left for us. He hangs his head, sighing. Many generations ago, my ancestors formed an agreement with the Aarakocra that we would protect the edge of their forest in exchange for food and weapons and our own protection, if necessary. We are not permitted to go in, but we had no desire to enter at the time. In recent years, they have been ignoring our requests for supplies, and so there are discussions among us that, because they have failed to uphold their end of the deal, we should be allowed to enter their territory to receive the protection we need. He lifts his head again, his piercing eyes focused on you. As I understand it, the furbolgs operate under their own laws, correct? You recall that, for the most part, the Aarakocra have always left you alone. You didn't meet one for the first time until you were around 6. You nod. If you are returning to your homes, then will you let us stay with your people for the winter? We will do whatever you ask of us. You may put us to use, to work. We will honor your customs, your way of life. We simply ask for shelter from the winter. Arnog's eyes are earnest, filled with fear and sorrow and defeat and desperation. You remember he's not that much older than you. Yes, of course. You nod without hesitation. We will help you. He's immediately taken aback. Do you wish to speak with your family first before you agree? You glance at Laurel and Maya Lee, both asleep. What will happen if they realize Maya Lee's an elf? Maybe Laurel will be able to talk his way out of it. Maya Lee's not the same elf as Mr. Senos, anyway. You have nothing to hide, you hope. But Laurel's been insistent on leaving soon. You stare at Ernog again. I want to help you. I got away because people helped me. You don't need to answer me now. However, should you agree to it, we will accompany you to the north. We will offer you protection on the way. What food and supplies we have, we will give to you. You nod. I will talk with them. Ernog lets out a slow exhale. Thank you. He glances at Dura and then Mach. Fate is a funny thing, I believe. Grumsh has never been merciful to us, but he has his own ways. When Dura and Mach returned with the three of you, I saw a sign. The reunion of the orcs and furbolgs. Our salvation. You shake your head. I'm not special, but I'll try to talk to them. Then you have already been more helpful to us than I have been for my own people. No, you say, still shaking your head. All I do is run away. Ernog chuckles. Then perhaps we runaways are better off traveling together. He looks exhausted. His eyes are bloodshot, barely able to stay open. You wonder how long he stays up every night. If you go back to sleep, you'll only have more nightmares. Ernog, you should sleep. I can keep watch. No, I am all right. I can't sleep anyway. I can use the goggles. Are you sure? You nod. He appears conflicted, and he shakes his head in defeat. I can't even keep watch without aid. He sighs. Thank you, Bach. You're welcome. You're helping us, too. He stands, squeezing your shoulder. Good night, you say. Good night. He stumbles back to the sleeping area, in an open spot next to Dura. He yawns and nuzzles his chin into her shoulder, closing his eyes as he rests his arm around her waist. She reaches up, caressing his face and pinching his earlobe. Outside, the storm is allayed, the thunder now a distant rumble. Where Maya Lee and Laurel are, you hear shifting. You turn to see Maya Lee has sat up, watching you. She motions with her hands, holding her wand, and her voice enters your head. So, are we leaving? Or do we stay and help them? You heard us talk? You whisper back. She nods, casting the spell again. I don't think Laurel will want us to stay. I know. He doesn't want them to see you're an elf. I know, Maya Lee responds. I don't want to accidentally hurt them, but... She trails off. But? I don't want to die out there. You inhale slowly. You should be caring for her, but you haven't been able to keep her safe. I like these people. They're nice. Yeah. I want to help them, you say. Me too. What do we tell Laurel? Maybe, Maya Lee responds, if I try to be careful with my magic, nothing will happen, and we can convince Laurel together. Okay, but what if the wild magic happens anyway? Then we run like before. Okay. Bach? Yeah? Promise if something bad happens, like if they find out I'm an elf, you won't leave me? Why would I do that? There's a pause. Promise? I promise. She nods. Okay. Then let's stay? Okay.